Gentlemen, great to see you both.
Hey,
Hello, Greg.
Greg.
Good to see you.
All right. Enjoyed the series. Like I've been telling everybody very, very much. You try to watch as many episodes as you can because you just keep getting pulled in at the end just to see what's going on. Because even I just start, Bradley, like with your character. Here's this guy, already king of his own country in Scandinavia, got everything going. And instead of just being satisfied, it's like, you know what? England sounds good. But also because of things that had gone on over there. But he decides, hey, power is power. And the more power you get all around the world, had to be something great back then, didn't it?
No, absolutely. I mean, who would be enough's never enough, or when is enough
Right.
enough?
Well,
That's
the
right,
English
isn't it?
started it, didn't they? They started
Well,
it.
that's the thing. You can't complain about having a little bit of power and wanting more power, and you have to go and kill somebody to get that power. So you can't complain when somebody tries to kill you to get that power. It's just a power game.
I like the way you said that. That is very, very true. And honest, like with your character, you and your brother both want the same thing as well. You want to be the leaders of your country. And it's not like you're fighting against somebody you don't know, but you've got to go up against family to get what you want.
Exactly. That is that endless sort of goal for power, and it's. I look at it as a personal tragedy as well, because I think what they really need as people, these characters, isn't more power. They need to calm the fuck down and have a talk.
Yes.
And hug it out and lay some feelings on the table. But that's not going to happen.
And actually, even going along with that, Bradley, I've been talking to folks. This all took place 1,000 years ago. Basically 1,000 years ago. You would think over time people would kind of like have their eyes opened up to different things that are going on and realize that what we're doing here now, not liking people for religion or where they're from, ethnicity, da 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 da. We should all change. But it's kind of weird how in some cases how some things change, some just remain the same.
It was ever thus. You go back 500 years, 1,000 years, 1,500 years, 2,000 years. It's all been about the power play, hasn't it? It's all been about the haves and the have-nots. The rich get richer and the poor stay poor. Unfortunately, it seems to be a human condition. What can I say?
No, that's for sure. But then on, I guess you could say kind of like the more fun side, Johannes, just have to ask you this. I mean, you have many great battle scenes going on in here. And I know all of us as kids, when we were growing up, you play, army against army, this against that. This almost had to be like, being the kid who's out there, I got the armor, I've got the swords, I've got all this, and I get to go out and do this for a movie or for a series. So it had to be a good time.
Oh, absolutely. But however, you do have to stick to the choreography. That's
that's
the thing. But you do have that impulse on the day. You just want to go like and swing the axe. But luckily, we have the stunt coordinators to rein you in, like stick to the moves, young man, and which is great. But yeah, obviously, it's amazing fun, great fun, and seeing it cut together and they put all the music and all the scenes together is thrilling. I love watching it.
And I just have to say, I mentioned this to someone else when you mentioned about the choreography. Spoke with someone recently about another movie where it was a lot of fist fighting. And I said, how long did you have to practice? They said they had us practice until they were sure we weren't going to kill each other, by getting close. And I can only imagine, with the stuff you guys had going on here, it's like, okay.
Oh yeah, I mean there would be an insane amount of hours spent in the stunt shed going over the choreography, where I felt comfortable. I was like, guys, I know this by now, and they were like, sure, we'll see you again tomorrow. I'm like, well, I don't need to. Well, we'll see you again tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and the next day. But which on the day really paid off, because there's always going to be elements of surprise on the day. Suddenly you're standing in mud. You're not standing on a mattress. The armor is more heavy than a t-shirt. So the better you know the choreography and the man you're fighting against, or the men and women, the safer everyone's going to be and the better it's going to look.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, enjoy very much. Thank you so much for your time and look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you, Greg. Likewise.
All righty.
Thanks, Greg.
Nice to talk to you, Greg.
Great talking to you too, and enjoyed this series very, very much. Like I told some folks, I almost tried to do it in one night, but it got to be like 3:30 in the morning, and it's like, I gotta just take a quick break and come back. It's just so compelling. Talk a little bit about the whole idea behind this, how it all came about.
Well, I was approached because the original series was ending. Is there another Viking story out there? Made it very clear I didn't want to do season 7 of the Michael Hirsch period, but I did feel like, and quite frankly, even though I was a huge fan of the original, I probably couldn't give you more than 20 minutes of talking about what I really knew about Vikings. So to go back in and to start over, I really needed to find out a lot more of who the characters are, which would be in a news story. And it didn't take long to find this St. Bryce's Day massacre and suddenly think, there's a story for me. Now I was trying to find a period in the Viking story that had some relevance to what I thought what today's audience would be like, whether it's religious ideology or little political ideology, whether it's immigration. When I was plotting this out, we were having the sort of Syrian crisis of immigrants in Europe, and Mexicans crossing the border into Texas and detention camps and stuff like that. All of that stuff started to really resonate with me. And I felt like, that's the world that my characters lived in. I want to embrace that. I want to lean into that particular part. So, Greg, when I found that, it became sort of it became a firm platform, okay, for me. And I like this period of time very, very much. I think the Vikings as a people, and I say the Vikings as a people, they weren't a people, but that sort of culture, whether it was in, Iceland or Norway or Sweden or Denmark, they had a belief system in certain things that I think was kind of aspirational. I mean, there wasn't a word for racism. They called blacks blue men. Right. And when they went into an area, they didn't conquer, what they did is they kind of pulled out the good stuff that they really liked, and they left behind stuff. And now, they married a lot of women, and they're Viking. There's Viking DNA everywhere, man. Anyway, but I do think that I like that about the people. I like that women had rights. I like that they, so I can write a really strong female role and not feel like I'm bending history to make it work in a 21st century world. So when I found this period of time, I thought, man, I kind of found it. It was just enough ahead of the old show, but I had no desire to bring any of the characters from the old show in. And this was going to be a whole different whole kettle of fish.
I was going to say a whole new Vikings team. I know Minnesota's trying to do the same thing. So that's good.
Yeah.
And you are right. That was one thing that also was just great to see. You had not just all men, as the leaders, but you had women who were out there being great fighters. Another lady who was a powerful leader of her group. And that's something that also is very inspirational.
Yeah. And, you don't have to find, some of those roles are amalgamations of characters that I found in my research, the Vikings were all over North Africa, and at that particular time there were incredible stories of sub-Saharan African, blacks coming up the Nile and trading in Alexandria at the time. And what would that have looked like if I'd been a Scandinavian dude standing there on the dock? And I can give you a story with that. So we had tales that were told, coming through, and how we were suddenly having faces of color ending up as Vikings in Ireland and in England and in Scandinavia. So, this, I think, like I said, man, it's a cool period to write in without making the show look like The Great or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the series. You're also right about the Vikings. That's why I've got Dupuytren's contracture. So,
yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. Enjoy a piece of candy. I'm going to finish mine.
I will. Thanks, Greg. Take care.
Thank you. How are you both, gentlemen?
Very well, thank you.
Good. It's bizarre. I'm used to looking at you for the past couple of nights, gruffy and bearded and wearing different types of clothes. And like,
look at us now, all dolled up.
Yeah. I know. Look at you. You look great, I gotta say. And I'll just start out like with you, Sam. Here you are. You're the son of Eric the Great, Leif Erikson. And that's got to be a hell of a thing, no matter what time period it is, like today or 1,000 years ago. You got to compete against your dad.
Yes, yes, it's certainly a universal theme, I guess. The idea of attaining one's father's pride, and it was actually a bit of a link to that. I mean, I used to watch the original series for Vikings with my father, and so it was a real honor to get the opportunity to continue the legacy of the original series through playing Leif Erikson, and yeah, really dive into the dynamic of what it means to be, the son of notoriously one of the most violent, but also well considered Vikings of history.
Right. And Leo, that was also something that was really just interesting in watching this as well. You've got Christians against pagans, Vikings against England, country against country. And you're thinking, again, this is 1,000 years ago. You would have figured we would have had it figured out by now.
Yeah, well, I think, it's 1,000 years ago, but the themes are as true today as they were back then, because power corrupts, and people can have different opinions. And if they hold those differences dogmatically, it can get nasty. And Harold's in this special place where he's sort of the glue of this Viking army. Mm-hmm. And that was quite fun to play that role of giving the rousing speech to bring a group of people together for a common goal. Harold he wants revenge, and he knows that the Vikings deserve revenge, and he's not going to stop at anything to get there.
Right, because that is an interesting part, like you said, of the whole story, when you think about what happened to them in England. And it is kind of like you think people would go, oh, we're getting in our boats, we're heading on over because we got to, take care of business.
Yeah. And I mean, the history between England and raiding Vikings, for that great invasion of King Canute, I mean, there have been years of war and bloodshed. So yeah, it was a bloody business. And I think that's something Harold sort of revels in a little bit as well.
I could imagine. And then Sam, I have to ask you about the fighting scenes. I mean, these would have you riveting, when you're sitting watching them on the screen, everybody going at each other. And I've talked to people before who've had, the fist fighting scenes in movies and different things. And they talk about the choreography, how they have to work it out, just make sure they don't hit each other. Well, you guys have all different types of weapons. Talk a little bit about getting prepared and training for that.
Yeah, we have an incredible stunt team, and led by Richard Ryan, who he choreographed Troy, he choreographed Sherlock Holmes. So we were in good hands, and really we just had to, I'm grateful for my sporting background, basketball and rugby, and so it was drawing upon those. But yeah, I hadn't done much weaponry except for at drama school. So it was really cool to dive in and, play around with the axes and the knives. How would Leif use them? Someone who's resistant to violence, resistant to killing someone, and unless motivated to do so, And it was really cool that Richard Ryan welcomed the character's nature to the fight scenes. But it was brilliant, hard work. It's kind of like a violent dance. To dance with these other stunties who are, at the top of their game.
I can imagine. Well, Sam and Leo, thank you both very, very much for your time. Enjoy talking with both of you. Did enjoy the series, and look forward to more, possibly, So thank you both very much.
Cheers.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
Hello, how are you?
Well, how are both of you?
Fantastic. It's a great, exciting time for us.
Yeah.
Well, great. And we will keep the excitement going, because I was just excited watching both of you over 2 nights. It would have been one night, except it got to be 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's like, okay, I got to go to bed.
Good.
Well, they do. They just all, pull you in. And I was just going to say, Brandon, like with your character, when we first meet her, I mean, here's a young lady who is drawn or going up the whole thing against like the Christians and pagans and all like that. But she also had another mission that she was on.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. So Freydis, on top of that, she's this incredibly strong believer in her religion, which is paganism. She's also the survivor of a horrific sexual assault, and she's fully within her right to claim revenge. So she is, catapulted into the wider kind of Viking world on her personal quest to revenge. Mm-hmm. And through that, and through the meeting of Jarl Håkon, she is embarking on this journey of revenge, not only for herself, but for all pagan people.
Right. And then Caroline, like with you, it was just so great seeing you when you first appeared on screen with that big, fur jacket on the horse. And it's like, that's a powerful lady. And it was great to see, especially during that time. Now here you are, you've got your group and everything's going great, but all of a sudden there becomes this divide between like the Christians and the pagans, but she's got to make
Yes.
sure that everything gets back together.
Yeah. And it's a very interesting time in history, in real history, because paganism, as we know, in the Viking period, that kind of ends, and Christianity. So it's the story is so rich, and it's so exciting to be a part of that, and to be a part of portraying Viking people, and especially two strong, fierce women, and the way that they actually lived and learned, and what they knew, and how they traveled. So we get to see a little different perspective of what we know today about history, which is amazing. And I'm so proud to be a part of that, and especially to work with Frida.
Everybody, for both of you.
Ah.
And Frida, I just have to say this, just to piggyback along what she said. It's amazing. Let's say if this story or this adventure was being produced like 50, 60 years ago, would have all just been men.
Yeah.
The only women you would have seen would be damsels in distress
Yeah.
inside the cabin or whatever.
Yeah.
This, just going, oh God, no. But in this
Yeah.
one, you ladies were out there, battling just as hard and as strong as the men. So that was good to see.
Yeah, I'm so thankful to hear you say that. I feel like it's important, if we're ever going to progress through a society, we need representation. You need to see, people that you can identify with being capable, and not just being, bystanders of white straight men, having their lives. And it's important, we need to show people that women are not just, like you say, damsels in distress or passive bystanders. And that was an important aspect of the show. It was an important aspect for, I think, the reason why me and Caroline wanted to be a part of the show. And yeah, it's great. And, we're carrying the torch on from Lagertha, who is a, fantastic character and portrayed beautifully by Catherine Winnick. So I feel like, it's important, to show that these women are just, just as capable and powerful as the men.
Right. And then Caroline, I also just have to bring this up. I've talked about this with some of the others. This took place 1,000 years ago, with everything that was going on with you. And you think as time goes on, you think people would grow and learn and, have a different mindset. And it's kind of like we're wearing different clothes, but things are still kind of the same.
Oh my God, ain't that right? And it's so sad in a way.
Yeah.
But you know what? When you see this, you might also relate to it in a way. And you might just, if you want to, and if you're a little bit open-minded, you might learn something as well. Because yeah, they're different clothes, maybe a little bit different hairstyles. But other than that, it's so sad, But this period, 1,000 years ago, actually, you can learn a little bit about how people actually lived, because there weren't, they did travel all around the world. They had knowledge, they had sort of different cultures and beliefs and races and whatever, so it's such a rich story in our history, so if you're just open to that, I think this is a very interesting aspect of the series, actually.
That's for sure. Ladies, thank you both very, very much for your time. Enjoyed it very much and look forward to seeing you and talking to you again very soon.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Lovely to meet you.
Take care.
Pleasure to meet you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.